By the mid-1700s, witchcraft was no longer a crime in England. The Witchcraft Act of 1735 repealed the previous Witchcraft Act of 1604, shifting belief in witchcraft being the cause of misfortunes to belief those professing they possessed magical abilities were con artists. Under the new Witchcraft Act, witchcraft was no longer a prosecutable crime, but allowed prosecution and fines for fraud of those claiming to possess magical abilities such as fortune telling. So in 1745, when Ruth Osborne, a poor woman in her 70s, begged her neighbor running a dairy for a bit of buttermilk, the general consensus was that witchcraft wasn't real. When her neighbor refused her request and she walked away mumbling, most would have assumed it was simply because she was hungry, desperate, and disappointed. And when the dairy farmer lost a few calves to distemper, and he developed health issues over the course of the next year, most would have considered that a mere coincidence. Thomas Colley heard of the misfortune of the dairy farmer and had a dislike for the elderly Ruth and her husband John. He organized a small mob, abducted the couple, and subjected them to ducking, a torture tactic used by witch hunters to force confessions. When Ruth didn't confess to witchcraft, he entered the pond, rolled her face down into the water. Her hands were tied to her toes as required for ducking, and she drowned. The mob tied her dead body to her husband's body, believing he had also perished. A coroner's inquest determined to make an example of Colley delivered a verdict of willful murder. He was charged and tried for the crime. John Osborne survived and recovered from the torture and testified against Colley at his murder trial, where he was found guilty and sentenced to hang by the neck until dead. And on August 24th, 1751, Colley climbed the gallows and was executed for the murder of Ruth Osborne.